What's more dramatic than the most expensive player in English football being called a playboy and gaining a reputation as a cheater? If you haven't figured it out yet, yes, we're talking about Tony Cotti. He was a star on the pitch, no doubt about that. But off the field, his personal life stole the headlines and his divorce became the talk of the town. Cotti has lived a life both on and off the pitch that has kept people talking. He's been married twice and has children from both marriages. But it was his divorce from his first wife, Jane, that really grabbed the headlines. The British tabloids had a field day, with rumors of infidelity and financial disputes swirling around. It became a hot topic, with the media and the public alike weighing in on his personal life, despite his reputation as a top footballer. Of course, Cotti wasn't just known for his personal drama, he made history on the field as well. In 1988, he became the most expensive player in English football when he made a big money move from West Ham to Everton. That kind of record-breaking transfer came with sky-high expectations, and Cotti has openly admitted that he struggled with the pressure that came with it. The weight of the price tag wasn't easy to carry, and it added an extra layer of challenge to his career. Fast forward to today, and Cotti is once again in the spotlight, but this time, it's for something entirely different. In 2024, he made comments about Newcastle United's finances and the Premier League's spending rules. His words didn't go down well with some Newcastle fans, who saw them as critical and out of touch. Despite all the drama that has followed him, he remains one of the best in the world. Born in Forest Gate, London, he kicked off his professional career with West Ham United, where he made an immediate impact. At just 17 years old, he made his first-team debut against Tottenham Hotspur on New Year's Day in 1983. And what a debut it was. Not only did he get his first taste of First Division football, but he also found the back of the net. It was clear from the start that Cotti had a natural goal-scoring instinct. That first season, he played only 8 games but still managed to score 5 goals, a sign of what was to come. By the 1983-84 season, at just 18, he had established himself as a regular in the squad, netting 15 league goals. The following season, he improved even more, scoring 17 goals in the First Division. By the time he was 20, Cotti had already notched up an impressive 37 league goals, a tally most strikers would be proud of after years in the game. His prolific goal-scoring form continued, and in the 1985-86 season, he played a crucial role in West Ham's best-ever league finish. That season, the Hammers finished third in the First Division, just 4 points shy of winning the title. Cotti contributed 20 league goals, while his strike partner, Frank McAvenny, was on fire with 26. Together, they formed the most dangerous strike partnership in English football that season, scoring a combined 46 league goals. The following year, Cotti was even more prolific, scoring 22 league goals in the 1986-87 campaign. However, West Ham struggled to replicate their previous form and dropped to 15th place in the league. McAvenny's output decreased significantly, managing just 7 goals, and it became clear that Cotti was carrying much of the goal-scoring burden. In 1987-88, he still performed well, netting 13 goals, but West Ham once again failed to impress, finishing 16th in the table. By this point, Cotti had played 212 league games for the club and had scored 92 goals, an outstanding record for a player still only 23 years old. It was no surprise that big clubs came calling, and on August 2nd, 1988, Cotti made history. He became the most expensive player ever signed by a British club when Everton paid £2.2 million to bring him to Goodison Park. That record didn't last long, though, as later that same month, Ian Rush returned to Liverpool from Juventus for a higher fee. Cotti made an explosive start to his Everton career, scoring a hat-trick on his debut in a 4-0 win over Newcastle United on the opening day of the 1988-89 season. He finished the campaign with 10 league goals, but Everton, who had been title contenders in previous years, struggled and ended up finishing 8th. However, they did reach the FA Cup final, where they faced their Merseyside rivals, Liverpool, at Wembley. It was a thrilling contest, but Everton lost 3-2 in extra time. Earlier in the season, Cotti had also played in the full Members' Cup final, where Everton lost 4-3 to Nottingham Forest despite his 2 goals in the game. The next season, manager Colin Harvey changed Everton's system to a 4-3-3 formation, pairing Cotti with Graham Sharp and Mike Newell in a 3-man attack. Everton started strong and even topped the table in October 1989, but their title challenge soon faded. They eventually finished 6th, while Liverpool claimed yet another league title. Cotti managed to score 13 league goals that season. Everton struggled badly in the 1999-91 campaign, and by the end of October, they were near the relegation zone. Manager Colin Harvey was sacked, and Howard Kendall returned for a second spell in charge. The team's form improved under Kendall, finishing ninth in the league and reaching the FA Cup quarterfinals. One of Cotti's most memorable moments came in the fifth round of the FA Cup against Liverpool. In a thrilling 4-4 draw, he scored a late equalizer to keep Everton in the tie. The next day, Liverpool manager Kenny Dalglish shocked the football world by resigning. The following seasons were tough for both Cotti and Everton. In 1991-92, injuries limited him to just 24 games, and he managed only 8 goals. Everton once again finished mid-table, and the club was clearly struggling to keep up with the top teams. However, Cotti bounced back in the inaugural Premier League season in 1992-93, scoring 12 goals. The 1993-94 campaign saw him hit 16 league goals, including 2 hat-tricks. But it was a disastrous season for Everton, as they barely avoided relegation. In the summer of 1994, new Everton manager Mike Walker made it clear that he was looking to rebuild the squad. Cotti was linked with a move away, and on September 7, 1994, he made an emotional return to West Ham. In exchange, Everton received defender David Burrows and some cash. Cotti's time at Goodison Park had been a mix of individual brilliance and team underachievement. He had played 184 league games and scored 76 goals, but never won a major trophy. His return to West Ham got off to a rocky start. He was sent off in his second debut against Liverpool. However, he soon found his form, scoring 13 goals in his first season back as West Ham finished 14th. He followed it up with 10 goals in 1995-96, helping the Hammers to a respectable 10th place under new manager Harry Redknapp. But by the next season, new strikers Florin Raducioiu and Hugo Porfirio had arrived, and Cotti found himself on the sidelines. He made just 3 league appearances before deciding to move on. In October 1996, he joined Malaysian club Selangor for £750,000. It was a fresh start, and Cotti finally got his hands on some silverware, winning the Malaysian FA Cup. After a successful spell in Malaysia, he returned to England in August 1997, signing for Leicester City for £500,000. At 32, he finally got his first taste of European football as Leicester participated in the UEFA Cup. He also had a memorable moment in January 1998, scoring the winning goal in a shock 1-0 victory over title-chasing Manchester United at Old Trafford. That season, he also had a brief loan spell with Birmingham City in Division 1, just scoring once. In 1998-99, Cotti played a key role in Leicester's run to the Football League Cup final, scoring 3 goals in the semi-finals against Sunderland. Although Leicester lost the final to Tottenham, he remained an important part of the team. The following season, he finally won a major trophy in England, helping Leicester defeat Tranmere Rovers 2-1 in the League Cup final. By 2000, his playing career was winding down, and he joined Norwich City as a player coach. However, it wasn't the right fit, and he soon left. He later had short spells at Barnet and Millwall, even managing Barnet for a brief period. Incredibly, during the 2001 season, Cotti became one of the few players to feature in all 4 divisions of English football in the same campaign. By the time he retired, Cotti had scored 214 top-flight league goals, making him one of the highest scorers in English football history. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you had a good time, be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out. See you in the next one.
Ryan Giggs' wife broke her silence after years of pain, finally ending the false image of a perfect marriage that the football star had tried so hard to keep. The Manchester United legend, who once had it all, fame, fortune and respect, is now better known for scandal than for sport. But this story isn't just about a broken marriage. It's about betrayal, courtrooms, and a family that may never heal. Born in Cardiff, Wales in 1973, Ryan Giggs seemed destined for greatness from an early age. His dad was a rugby player, and young Ryan moved to Manchester when he was just 6 years old. It was there that his football journey really began. After starting at Manchester City's youth setup, he was poached by Manchester United on his 14th birthday, a move that would shape not just his career, but English football itself. For over 20 years, Giggs dazzled fans at Old Trafford. He played an incredible 963 matches for Manchester United, scoring 168 goals. No player has won more Premier League titles than his 13. He lifted the Champions League trophy twice and seemed to break records every season. When he couldn't rely on his famous pace anymore, he reinvented himself as a clever midfielder, showing his football brain was just as good as his feet. Off the pitch, his carefully managed image was that of a family man. He married Stacey Cook in 2007, and they had 2 children together. Unlike some flashier teammates, Giggs seemed to keep his private life private. He was the anti-Beckham, just as famous, but somehow more serious, more professional. Brands like Reebok paid millions for his endorsement, especially in Asia, where his face sold everything from sports gear to cameras. But behind this perfect picture lurked a very different Ryan Giggs, one whose actions would eventually destroy his own family. In 2011, the shocking truth came out. For 8 long years, from 2003 to 2011, Ryan Giggs had been having an affair with Natasha Lever, his own brother's wife. This wasn't just any affair. It was a betrayal so deep, so personal, that it tore the Giggs family apart forever. The details were ugly. Natasha revealed that she had aborted Giggs's baby just weeks before marrying his brother Rodri in Las Vegas. Even worse, the affair continued while Giggs's own wife Stacey was pregnant with their children. When Rodri confronted his famous brother about sleeping with his wife, Ryan reportedly dismissed it as just sex, showing a coldness that stunned even those who knew him well. The fallout was immediate and permanent. Rodri, the younger brother who had always lived in Ryan's shadow, cut all ties. By 2019, he admitted he hadn't spoken to Ryan for 8 years since the affair came to light. The brother's mother, Lynn, reportedly took Ryan's side, choosing the famous son over the wronged one. This caused another painful split, with Rodri becoming estranged from his mum as well. Rodri later said bitterly that his mother chose Ryan. "Because I haven't got 35 medals. I haven't played for Manchester United for 20-odd years and own a big house." He described how Ryan had changed, becoming cocky, arrogant, and thinks he can get away with anything. By 2025, Rodri claimed he had made around £1 million from media interviews discussing the affair. Cold comfort for a family destroyed. The scandal badly damaged Giggs's carefully built public image, but his career survived. He continued playing until 2014, then moved into coaching. By January 2018, he achieved his dream job as manager of the Wales national team. It seemed like he might be moving past the scandal, but worse was to come. On November 1st, 2020, police were called to Ryan Giggs's home in Worsley, Greater Manchester. A serious incident had occurred involving his girlfriend Kate Greville and her younger sister Emma. Giggs was arrested on suspicion of assault, and the details that emerged painted a disturbing picture. The Crown Prosecution Service charged Giggs with 3 serious offences: controlling and coercive behaviour against Kate between 2017 and 2020, actual bodily harm against Kate, and common assault against her sister Emma. All stemmed from the November incident, where he was accused of losing control and headbutting Kate, as well as elbowing her sister. Giggs denied everything and pleaded not guilty to all charges, but the damage to his career was instant. He stepped back from managing Wales, with his assistant Rob Page taking charge. By June 2022, with his trial approaching, and Wales preparing for their first World Cup since 1958, Giggs formally resigned. He said he didn't want the country's preparations for the World Cup to be affected, destabilised or jeopardised in any way by the continued interest around this case. The trial began on August 8, 2022, at Manchester Crown Court. For nearly a month, the public heard disturbing allegations about Giggs's behaviour in relationships. Messages between him and Kate were read out. painting a picture of a volatile relationship. Even his former manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, appeared as a character witness. After nearly 23 hours of deliberation, the jury couldn't reach a verdict on any of the 3 charges. The prosecution announced they would seek a retrial for July 2023. But just before this second trial was due to start, the case took an unexpected turn. On July 18th, 2023, the Crown Prosecution Service withdrew all charges against Giggs. Why? Kate Greville had told prosecutors she was unwilling to testify again, citing the significant toll the first trial had taken on her and her sister. Without her testimony, the CPS had no case. The judge entered not guilty verdicts on all counts. Legally, Giggs was cleared. But in the public eye, things weren't so simple. The trial had aired weeks of disturbing allegations about his behaviour. And since the case ended, not with an acquittal after a completed trial, but with charges withdrawn, many people felt the truth was never properly established either way. The damage to Giggs's reputation was enormous. He lost the chance to manage Wales at their first World Cup in 64 years, the culmination of qualification work he had overseen. He watched from home as Page led his team at the tournament in Qatar, later describing it as heartbreaking. For nearly 3 years from his arrest to the withdrawal of charges, Giggs's life was dominated by the case. His high-profile managerial career stalled completely. Even now, with the legal matters resolved, his name carries a weight it didn't before. Today, Ryan Giggs has slowly begun to re-emerge into public life, but in a much lower-profile role. He's now working as director of football at Salford City, the small League Two club he co-owns with his former class of '92 teammates, including Gary Neville, Paul Scholes and David Beckham. It's a far cry from managing Wales at the World Cup, but it offers him a way back into football without the intense scrutiny of a top-level job. He's made cautious steps back into the media, appearing on former teammate Rio Ferdinand's podcast in 2025 to discuss his time as Wales manager and the heartbreak of missing out on leading them at major tournaments. In late 2024, he became a father again when his girlfriend Zara Charles gave birth to a daughter. But Ryan Giggs's legacy remains deeply complicated. As a player, his achievements place him among football's all-time greats, the most decorated player in English football history. Yet these sporting achievements now sit alongside a very different story, one of family betrayal and serious, though legally unproven, allegations of abuse. For many, especially Manchester United fans, reconciling these two versions of Giggs is difficult, if not impossible. His brother Rodri remains estranged from him, a family permanently broken. The shadows of the 8-year affair with his brother's wife and the subsequent domestic abuse case loom large over any discussion of his career. Football fans often separate the player from the person, the art from the artist. But with Giggs, the contrast is so stark, the allegations so serious, that this separation becomes almost impossible. His journey from Welsh wonderkid to Manchester United legend to controversial figure serves as a stark reminder of how quickly a carefully built reputation can collapse. Ryan Giggs may be over 50 now, but the shadow of what he's done still looms large over his legacy. His football records may stand forever, but they'll always be viewed through the lens of the controversies that redefined who Ryan Giggs really is.
Cheating scandals always steal the spotlight when it comes to gossip about players. Take Ian Rush, his struggles at Juventus were completely overshadowed when news broke that he'd cheated on his wife of 18 years with a much younger woman. Back in 2002, Ian Rush found himself in the middle of a media storm when news broke about his affair with Carol Anthony, a much younger woman. The revelation was a huge shock, especially since it led to the end of his 18-year marriage to Tracy Rush. British tabloids had a field day, splashing every detail of the scandal across their pages. Carol, who is reportedly 22 years younger than Rush, became a controversial figure in her own right. Their relationship, which eventually turned into a marriage in 2013, was the talk of the town for years. People couldn't stop debating the age gap, and many openly questioned the choices Rush was making in his personal life. This drama seemed to overshadow what had been one of the more disappointing chapters of Rush's football career, his time at Juventus. Back in 1986, when Rush made the move to the Italian giants, fans were buzzing with excitement. After all, he had been a goal-scoring machine at Liverpool, and expectations were sky-high. But things didn't quite go according to plan. Serie A was a whole different beast, with its ultra-defensive style of play, and Rush struggled to adapt. His goal-scoring stats weren't terrible, but they weren't anywhere near the explosive numbers he had put up in England. It didn't take long for critics to pounce. Some said he couldn't handle playing outside his comfort zone. Others whispered that his heart was never really in it. Whatever the case, after just one season, Rush was back at Liverpool, first on loan and then permanently. To many, it looked like a retreat, proof that he had failed to make it in Italy. But if you ask Rush, he sees it differently. He said in interviews that his time at Juventus taught him a lot and helped him grow as a player, even if it wasn't a fairy tale chapter in his career. But Liverpool really made him the man he is. He made his Liverpool debut on December 13, 1980, stepping in for Kenny Dalglish, who was out with an ankle injury. Imagine the pressure. Dalglish was one of the best strikers in the world, and here was Rush, wearing his number 7 shirt, trying to make an impression. At the time, Liverpool were defending champions and also chasing European glory. While they didn't win the league that year, they did clinch the European Cup and League Cup. Rush played a small but important role, starting in the League Cup final replay win over West Ham. In his first season, though, Rush mostly played for the reserves. It wasn't until the following year, on September 30th, 1981, that he scored his first Liverpool goal during a European Cup tie against Ulan Palosira. His league breakthrough came soon after, with his first 2 league goals in a win over Leeds United and another in a Merseyside derby victory against Everton. By the end of the 1981-82 season, he was Liverpool's top scorer with 30 goals in 49 appearances. From there, Rush's career skyrocketed. He was unstoppable, winning the PFA Young Player of the Year in 1983 as Liverpool stormed to another league title and League Cup double. He scored an incredible 24 league goals that season, and his 4-goal performance in a 5-0 Merseyside derby win over Everton remains a post-war record. The 1983-84 season was even better. Rush netted 47 goals in 65 games, the highest tally by any professional player in Europe that year. Liverpool won the League Cup, and their 4th European Cup, with Rush scoring a crucial penalty in the shootout victory over AS Roma. For his efforts, he was named PFA Player of the Year, BBC Wales Sports Personality of the Year, and Football Writers Player of the Year, a clean sweep of major individual awards. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The 1984-85 season was a tough one. Liverpool failed to win any trophies, and the year was overshadowed by the Heysel Stadium disaster during their European Cup final against Juventus, a tragedy that left 39 fans dead. Liverpool lost the match 1-0, and the fallout led to an indefinite ban on English clubs in European competitions, with Liverpool serving an extra year. Rush and Liverpool bounced back in the 1985-86 season, though, winning the league and FA Cup double, the first in the club's history. Rush scored twice in the FA Cup final, where Liverpool came from behind to beat Everton 3-1. His second goal was a beauty, latching onto a perfectly timed pass to slot it past the keeper and seal the victory. He then joined Italian giants Juventus on July 2, 1986, for a record-breaking £3.2 million fee, a huge deal at the time. However, before heading to Turin, he stayed with Liverpool on loan for one more season, and what a season it was. Rush scored 30 league goals, becoming the second highest scorer in the First Division. But despite his incredible form, Liverpool ended the season trophyless, finishing second in the league behind Everton and losing the League Cup final to Arsenal. That loss was particularly shocking, since Liverpool had a remarkable streak, 144 games unbeaten when Rush scored until that day. Moving to Juventus was seen as a big challenge. Serie A was known for its rock-solid defences, and scoring there wasn't easy. Rush found that out quickly, managing just 8 goals in 29 games. It didn't help that adapting to life in Italy was tough for him. There's a famous quote where Rush supposedly joked, "It's like living in a foreign country." He later clarified it was just a joke Kenny Dalglish had made up. While he admits he missed home at times, Rush has said his year in Turin was still an incredible life experience. After a single season in Italy, Rush returned to Liverpool in 1988 for $2.7 million, another record-breaking transfer, this time for an English club. His return wasn't seamless, though. Liverpool had already signed strikers John Aldridge and Peter Beardsley during his absence, and the team shifted to a new 4-3-3 system. There were concerns that Rush and Aldridge were too similar in style to play together. Initially, Aldridge was in red-hot form and kept Rush out of the starting 18th, but Rush wasn't done yet. He regained his stride and scored twice in the dramatic 1989 FA Cup final against Everton, sealing a thrilling 3-2 win for Liverpool. That victory was bittersweet, coming just weeks after the tragic Hillsborough disaster, which claimed the lives of 97 Liverpool fans. The entire team, Rush included, attended many of the funerals, a heartbreaking chapter in the club's history. The 1989 season ended on another low note as Liverpool lost the league title to Arsenal in a dramatic final game. Rush even had to leave the field injured during the match. Despite these setbacks, the following season brought redemption. Liverpool clinched the league title in 1990, with Rush scoring 18 goals. However, their FA Cup campaign ended in a shock defeat to Crystal Palace, despite Rush giving Liverpool an early lead. In the early 90s, Liverpool's dominance began to fade. Rush still found personal success, scoring in big games like the 1992 FA Cup final against Sunderland. But league struggles and managerial changes, including Kenny Dalglish's resignation in 1991, meant the team was no longer the powerhouse it had been. By the mid-90s, Liverpool was rebuilding, and new talents like Robbie Fowler emerged. Rush, now a veteran, started to see less game time. By 1996, it was clear his time at Liverpool was coming to an end. After a season of limited appearances, Rush left the club on a free transfer. His final Liverpool game was as a substitute in the FA Cup final against Manchester United, a match Liverpool lost 1-0 to a late Eric Cantona goal. Rush officially said goodbye to Anfield on May 20, 1996, when he signed with Leeds United. His time at Elland Road was short and not exactly memorable. He managed just 3 goals in 36 Premier League games during the 1996-97 season. Leeds let him go on a free transfer after that campaign. Rush had been brought in by Howard Wilkinson, but the manager was sacked just a month into the season and replaced by George Graham. The transition didn't help Rush find his footing. After Leeds, Rush joined Newcastle United on a 1-year deal, reuniting with his former Liverpool teammate Kenny Dalglish, who was managing the team. Things started well enough, but when Alan Shearer returned from injury around Christmas, Rush found himself out of the starting lineup. Still, he delivered when it mattered, scoring a crucial goal in a 1-0 FA Cup win over Everton in the 3rd round. That goal helped Newcastle on their way to their first FA Cup final in 24 years. He also scored in a League Cup tie against Hull City, but didn't find many other opportunities to shine. Later that season, he went on loan to Sheffield United before leaving Newcastle in the summer of 1998. Rush's next move brought him back to Wales, where he signed for Wrexham amid much fanfare. However, the excitement faded quickly. At 37, Rush wasn't the same player who terrorised defences in his prime. He failed to score in 17 starts for the Division 2 club and was eventually moved into a midfield role as the season wore on. After that disappointing stint, he made a brief and surprising comeback with Sydney Olympic in Australia, scoring once in 3 games before finally hanging up his boots in 2000 at the age of 38. Rush's international career with Wales spanned more than 15 years, beginning even before he was a regular starter for Liverpool. He made his debut on May 21, 1980, in a 1-0 loss to Scotland in Glasgow. Over the years, he earned 73 caps and scored 28 goals, becoming Wales's all-time leading scorer, a record that stood until 2018, when Gareth Bale surpassed it. One of Rush's most memorable international moments came in a friendly against Italy in 1988. Wales stunned the Italians with a 1-0 win, and Rush scored the only goal. Another highlight was in 1991 when he netted the winner in a Euro 1992 qualifier against Germany, a game Welsh fans still talk about. In 1992, he recorded a hat-trick in a 6-0 victory over the Faroe Islands during a World Cup qualifier, the first Welsh hat-trick in over 13 years and one of only a handful in their history. Despite these individual achievements, Wales never qualified for a major tournament during his career. After retiring, Rush remained connected to football. In 2003, he worked part-time as a strikers coach for Liverpool under Gerard Houllier, helping to develop the next generation of goalscorers. But his big move came in August 2004 when he was appointed manager of Chester City, the first professional club he ever played for. At the time, Chester had just returned to the Football League and were struggling badly. Rush's managerial debut wasn't great. A 3-1 loss to Boston United, but things quickly improved. Chester went on a 2-month unbeaten run under his leadership and even reached the third round of the FA Cup. Critics, including his former Liverpool teammate Mark Lawrenson, had doubted his tactical abilities, but Rush seemed to be proving them wrong. However, things started to unravel later in the season. In November 2004, Rush ruled himself out of the running for the vacant Wales manager's job, which might have been a missed opportunity. Chester's form dipped and heavy defeats started piling up. Fans and critics took issue with the long ball tactics used by Rush and his coaching team. The situation came to a head in February 2005 after a humiliating 5-0 loss to local rivals Shrewsbury Town. Chester's chairman, Stephen Vaughan, demanded Rush step down, but he refused. Then, in April, Vaughan sacked Rush's assistant, Mark Aizlewood, without consulting him. Feeling undermined, Rush resigned on principle. Despite the turmoil, he left the club in a much safer position than when he arrived. During his time at Chester, Rush gave opportunities to several young players, including Robbie Booth, Michael Walsh and Sean Whalley, who made their Football League debuts under his management. He also brought in promising talents like George Elokobi and Robbie Foy on loan, showing an eye for nurturing young talent. After leaving Chester, Rush was briefly considered for the managerial role at Peterborough United, but the job ultimately went to Mark Wright, another former Liverpool teammate and Rush's predecessor at Chester. Though his time as a manager wasn't as glittering as his playing career, Rush's passion for football never wavered. And that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on more great content. See you in the next one.
Martin Chivers, aka the Big Chivs, was one such striker who was known for his weirdly insane pace and skills despite having a massive physique. With his unremarkable height and uninterceptable headers, Chivers was a nightmare for the defenders on the field. But off the field, he constantly struggled with his personal life greatly. Let's take a look at the challenging yet inspiring life of Martin Chivers. Chivers was born on 27 April 1945 in Southampton, England. Born during the post-war recovery period, childhood wasn't the best of times for Martins, and if enough problems weren't there, the shortage of money was always there. His father worked as a docker in the city, and his mother, who originally was a German, moved to England with her husband after the Great War and used to manage the household and all the kids. Being born in the city of Southampton, football was one of the first and the most important things for Martin right from the start. Remembering the period of the post-war where football was something that united everyone, Martin remembers that it was more than just a game for the people of the city, including himself. Due to the scarcity of money, Martin started playing the game in a bit odd or unconventional way. His father would patch a handmade, ragged football for him, and he, along with his local friends, would play either barefoot or with his worn-out shoes. This might sound strange, but the scarcity of money and considering football as a privilege made Martin respect and love the game more than ever. But he wasn't just good at football, he played different sorts of games and was exceptional in most of them. However, it seemed that football came to him naturally. His school teachers quickly noticed his extraordinary athleticism and talent and encouraged him to play more in school matches and local games, providing the kid with the stage he deserved. And no, he did not let them down. But unfortunately, lack of money can make people leave even their biggest dreams. Things were looking quite similar for Martin, as well as he had to manage his academics, do his chores, and help his parents, all while proving his worth in the game. And to meet all these responsibilities, he used to wake up very early in the morning, deliver newspapers, or help his father at the docks, head to school and complete his studies, and then finally focus on his training and practice. Even though Martin was brilliant in his play, often leaving the coaches in awe, he struggled heavily when it came to buying equipment, facilities, or proper training and coaching. He mainly relied on the local games and his self-practice in order to hone his skills. This actually showcases his dedication to playing the game and teaches us that if you have the will, you will find a way. A very good example of this is some of the kids of this generation who are learning different sorts of skills from free platforms like YouTube and Google. But unfortunately, money wasn't the only challenge for Martin either. For some people, Martin was too tall for a kid. Although it later became one of the biggest assets, it initially caused coordination issues and a bit of awkward movement that worried the coaches. However, Martin worked tirelessly to adapt to his rapidly changing physique and became one of the best in the local leagues. He was one of the leading goal scorers in the local circuit and showed enough potential to make the coaches admit him to the youth setup of Southampton Football Club. Well, it wasn't that straightforward either. Martin actually wrote a letter to the club asking for a trial, and when the scouts watched him play, that's when things turned around for the kid. Making his professional debut with the Southampton team at the age of 17, Martin gradually became an important player in the lineup despite having a goalless debut. Over the next seasons, he was undefendable on the field and became the club's leading goal scorer along with Terry Payne, who also prepared many assists for him. Having a tall physique, Martin was quite difficult to mark by the defenders. And when it came to intercepting his headers, things were even more difficult. After spending a great 6 years with Southampton and 96 goals in his 175 appearances for the club, Chivers was now one of the most demanded strikers in the circuit. The amount of £125,000 for his transfer to Tottenham Hotspur, which was actually a record at that time, clearly demonstrated his skill, talent and demand in the industry. However, the signing got a mixed reaction from the fans, with some saying that he wasn't even worth so much money, and some stating that Tottenham had probably made a huge mistake by signing Martin to the club. But as they say, you don't need to reply with words if you can with your actions. Martin did the same thing. Amidst all the controversies and speculations, Chivers rose to become one of the most crucial players for the team, especially after the sale of Jimmy Greaves, who was considered a favourite ahead of him. Martin, who also went by the nickname Big Chivs, was often seen as a lethargic and lazy player, somewhat because of his massive physique. But when he was on the ground, he was one of the quickest players, often shocking the opposite with his natural strength and pace along with his ball holding and playmaking abilities. His best time with the Spurs came during the 1971-72 campaign, in which the English striker netted the ball 44 times in his 64 first-team appearances. His goals were one of the key reasons why Tottenham reached the semi-finals, eventually losing to Chelsea. His form continued even in the UEFA Cup, in which he scored 8 amazing goals in the 11 matches, including his unforgettable hat-trick in the demolition of the Icelandic club, Keflavik IF. However, when everything was going great for Chivers on the field, off the field was a whole different story going on. Towards his final years with Tottenham, Martin's relations with the club's manager, Bill Nicholson, got really bad. Once again, the clash was of egos and personalities. Nicholson, being a legendary manager as he was, expected Martin to show him a certain level of respect and be disciplined with his games and routines. But the latter was a whole different character himself. He constantly failed to meet Nicholson's expectations, and it often led the duo to get into heated arguments and conflicts. While Tottenham fans were happy on one side that their favourite team was progressing at an amazing rate, they were also worried about this feud that would be ruining the whole run of the club. And unfortunately, that is what happened. Nicholson ultimately resigned from the club in 1974, to which many critics and fans put the blame on Martin. But discipline wasn't the only problem for Martin. He had something even worse than that. He often struggled with low self-confidence and used to take tranquilizers in order to stay confident during his games. Norman Dean, who was a fellow footballer, recalls having to gear Matrin up for this defender and that opponent. The use of tranquilizers also affected Chivers' overall health very greatly, as he would often find himself lonely and depressed, even when things were completely normal otherwise. However, it might sound very strange, but this addiction did not slow him down in his plays, as he continued to score goals consistently for a very long period of time. Martin was also very superstitious. Well, this might not sound very surprising to you if you have known enough about the sports industry. Players are usually superstitious and believe that one thing may boost their performance while one may hinder it. With Martin, this superstition was regarding his jersey number. When he was with Southampton, he did not like wearing the 9-number jersey which was originally appointed to him. So one day he decided to swap it up with his fellow striker Jimmy Melia, and only the fans know what wonders it did. The opponent defenders were completely unable to mark either of the players, and they continued to score super amazing goals one after another. One famous match where the duo literally created havoc was against Portsmouth, which Southampton eventually won with a 5-2 scoreline. Chivers' contribution to Tottenham was unmatched, as the striker played a very crucial role in some of the most important matches for the club. For example, his 2 goals against Liverpool in the quarter-finals of the 1972-73 season that promoted them to the semi-finals. It was because of his amazing striking ability and the skill to find goals at the most crucial moments that the Spurs reached the finals of the UEFA Cup in 1974, which they ultimately lost. After enjoying an amazing career with the Spurs by scoring 118 magnificent goals in his 278 appearances, Martin went on to play for several other clubs, including Norwich City, Dorchester Town, and Barnet. However, as time passed, the spark in his goal-scoring ability seemed to be deteriorating, and he wasn't able to create the same amount of intensity and fear in opposition defenders. And when things started looking really bad, Martin made the wise decision. He retired from the game in 1982. But as it later turned out, it wasn't just the lack of form that made the English striker to quit the game. There was something else going on in his personal life as well. It was later revealed that Martin was struggling with managing his personal life, especially his relationship with his wife. In 2003, his ex-wife, Elizabeth Chivers, published an autobiography titled The Truth Hurts that was kind of a direct attack on Chivers. In the book, she alleged that Chivers was physically and emotionally abusive toward her during their marriage. The autobiography spread like a fire in the market, and different sorts of opinions and speculations regarding Martin were made here and there. In some experts' opinions, Martin used to take tranquilizers, and these allegations might be completely true, while others said that Chivs lacked discipline and linked his poor relationship with Nicholson to prove these allegations. However, we did not yet know what the actual truth was, as Martin chose not to speak on the topic. Maybe that was a wise move. Right from the start, it was Martin's dream to play for his national team, and it was for this reason only that he had left Southampton and joined Tottenham Hotspur, because it would give me much more exposure to the game than it did with the former team. Unfortunately, Chivers got what he had dreamed of. He got to represent his country at the international level, and that too, at 24 different times. However, with this privilege and luxury came one of the deepest career stains in Chivers' professional life. In 1973, despite scoring 6 amazing international goals for the country, Chivers was one of the major reasons for his country's failure to qualify for the tournament. As a result, he was completely left by his caretaker manager Joe Mercer and Don Revie, leading him to say goodbye to international football too. Fortunately, unlike many other footballers who struggled heavily after retirement, Martin's retirement plan was pretty sorted. He first started managing clubs in England and Norway, and he even had a restaurant in Hertfordshire that made him pretty good money. Chivers also played the role of a commentator for BBC Radio for a while, sharing his on-ground experience and learnings with everyone out there. Not only that, he also remained a regular commentator at the White Hart Lane Stadium for a pretty long time. At the age of 79 currently, Chivers is enjoying a decent life and still remains a legend for all of us here and the classic football fans. His whole life, including his professional as well as personal life, has been like a rollercoaster ride in which he has seen some great heights by becoming one of the best strikers for both Southampton and Tottenham, and has also seen the depths by facing a severe financial crisis during his childhood and having a very poor marriage with his ex-wife. But whatever the situation has been, Chivers has fought it bravely and has overcome it, whether it was his addiction or his disciplinary issues, something we all should learn. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, guys. If yes, let us know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I'll be back very soon with another interesting story from the world of sports. Till then, stay entertained.
One footballer who doesn't deserve to be called a legend is Kenny Sansom. He was an exceptional player who ruined everything just for alcohol. A crumbled marriage, bankruptcy, or assault charges. You name it, and he has it. This is the sad reality of Kenny Sansom. Kenneth Graham Sansom, born on September 26, 1958 in Camberwell, London, had quite an interesting journey to becoming one of England's top footballers. As a kid, Kenny dreamed of being a goalkeeper. But fate had other plans. While playing for his youth team, Spring Park Wolves, he had to fill in as a left-back for an injured teammate. That switch stuck, and Kenny stayed in that position for the rest of his career. It's crazy how Kenny's talent caught the eyes of big clubs like Arsenal, Queen's Park Rangers and Tottenham Hotspur, but he chose to join the youth team at Crystal Palace. He made his league debut on May 7, 1975, against Tranmere Rovers, and it didn't take long for him to shine. By 1977, Kenny was not only leading Crystal Palace's junior team to FA Youth Cup success, but also captaining the England youth team. He quickly became a fan favourite, earning Crystal Palace's Player of the Year award in his first season. Known for his speed, calmness under pressure, strong tackling and excellent crossing, Kenny was a key player. He missed just one league game in a streak of 156 consecutive matches starting in 1976. He was great so far, and everyone wanted him. In 1980, Arsenal made a big move for Kenny, offering $1 million and striker Clive Allen in exchange. This was a surprising transfer since Allen had just joined Arsenal and hadn't played a match for them. Nevertheless, Kenny moved to Highbury and made his debut on August 16, 1980, against West Bromwich Albion. Kenny was great at knowing where to be on the field. He could read the game really well, which meant he often intercepted passes and blocked shots. His tackles were clean and well-timed, making him someone you could always rely on at the back. He stayed calm under pressure, which was a big plus for his team. But Kenny wasn't just about defending. He was versatile and could also push forward to help in attack. He had good dribbling skills and could move the ball up the field confidently. One of his big strengths was crossing the ball into the box, setting up chances for his teammates to score. This made him a well-rounded player who could do a bit of everything. Kenny quickly became a regular fixture in Arsenal's defence. In 1981, he was named Arsenal Player of the Season, but things changed in 1986 when George Graham became Arsenal's manager. Under Graham, Arsenal's performance improved a lot. In 1987, Kenny captained Arsenal to a memorable League Cup final victory over Liverpool, his first major domestic trophy. However, the following season saw some tension between Kenny and Graham. Kenny was replaced as captain by Tony Adams, but he still managed to keep his place in the team. He continued playing for Arsenal until December 1988, making 394 appearances and scoring 6 goals. Kenny then moved to Newcastle United for $300,000, but his time there was tough as the club was relegated. He transferred to Queen's Park Rangers, QPR, in 1989, where he scored against Arsenal in a notable FA Cup match. After QPR, Kenny played for Coventry City, Everton and Brentford, before joining Watford as a player and coach. Not much later, Sansom had brief periods with lower league teams such as Chertsey Town and Slough Town, making it very clear that he was ready for retirement. After hanging up his boots, Kenny faced some tough times though. He struggled with alcoholism and financial problems, which were tough to deal with and often made headlines. Kenny started drinking heavily when his football career ended. He found it difficult to adjust to normal life without the routine and excitement of football. Drinking became a way for him to cope, but it led to serious problems. He lost a lot of money, had trouble with his relationships, and even became homeless at times. In addition to his drinking problems, Kenny's health has suffered a lot. The heavy drinking damaged his liver and gave him other serious health issues. He has needed a lot of medical care to try to get better. But other than his alcohol addiction, there is one particular aspect of his life that ruined his reputation once and for all. He cheated on his wife. Kenny Sansom had a long marriage with his wife Elaine. They were together for 29 years, and Elaine was always there for him. Elaine and Kenny had been together since they were 15 years old. Throughout Kenny's career, which included playing for Arsenal and winning 86 international caps for England, Elaine was his rock. She forgave him when he cheated on her in 2006, supported him through rehab, and even campaigned for him to receive an OBE. Despite his battles with alcoholism and gambling, which drained their finances, Elaine never gave up on him. She kept supporting him in the hopes of things getting better. But in 2008, everything changed. Kenny left Elaine for another woman named Denise Mullins. This decision sparked a lot of gossip and media attention. Everyone was talking about it, and Elaine was heartbroken. She had nothing left to say. How could her childhood sweetheart do this to her? In an interview with The People, Elaine said, "I'm 50, alone, over my head in debt and about to become homeless. He's shacked up with a well-off new woman who will prop him up like I did for 30 years, and he simply turned his back on me and the kids." Kenny was selfish for this, so he was heavily criticized by everyone who knew him. He took all their criticism for granted, until one day it was actually his turn to pay. Kenny and Denise's relationship didn't last long at all. He faced many problems, including financial troubles and his ongoing battle with alcohol. He even ended up homeless for a while, and that's when everyone realized that karma does run in full circles. It was a tough period for him, and things didn't go as he had hoped. Now, to make matters worse, in 2020 he was immediately hospitalized. The reasons for his hospital stay were not made public, which made everyone extremely concerned. 6 months later, in November 2020, it was revealed that Sansom had been diagnosed with Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. This brain disorder is often caused by a lack of vitamin B1, which is sometimes linked to alcohol misuse. The whole situation caused a lot of sadness for Kenny's family and friends. They worried about him and wished he hadn't made those choices. It reminded everyone that fame and fortune don't always lead to happiness. Kenny Sansom's story teaches us that addiction can be very harmful and ruin relationships. It's crucial to seek help if you're struggling with addiction, and it's equally important to support loved ones going through tough times. All in all, Kenny Sansom's story is a mix of great football talent and personal struggles. Kenny started dreaming of being a goalkeeper, but ended up as a left-back. He was really good at it, playing for teams like Crystal Palace and Arsenal, and even the England national team. Fans loved his speed, strong tackles, and perfect crosses. But things went wrong off the field. After his football career ended, Kenny struggled with alcohol. This led to serious health issues, money problems, and a broken marriage. He cheated on his wife, Elaine, who had stood by him through everything. This caused a lot of pain and made headlines. Kenny's life shows how personal problems can affect even the most successful careers. Despite being a football star, his battles with addiction and personal issues took a heavy toll. His story is a reminder of how important it is to get help for addiction and have a strong support system. So, what do you think we can learn from Kenny Sansom's story? Is he worth being called a legend or not? Let's discuss this in the comment section.